Good morning, my name is Jared Schroeder, and I'll be giving a presentation on a view from the front lines. This is a report given by Mandiant for the 2014 year. Basically, they go into detail on what they saw in 2014 for threats, what's changed, and what to expect in the future. So I'll give you an overview here on who Mandiant is and what they do, some of today's threat trends that are different than the past, and also I'll explain a little bit on hijacking the VPN. Some background information: Mandiant Consulting, they're a full range of trusted security consulting services to the Global 1000 government agencies. They provide incident response and security assessment services. They do a lot of research into new threats and what's kind of out there for the malware, where the industry is going with that, and also they do a lot of remediation for breaches. So if a company gets breached, they kind of try to help you with where to go from there. Mandiant's claim to fame is that they're the only information security company that can both tell a company when it's been compromised and tell the material impact of the breach. So the first one's huge there. They can tell you the date and time it's been compromised. That's really great to know when you're figure out you've been breached. You want to know how long has this been going on, right? So, and then the second point there, they can tell you the scope of everything. So what's all affected? Did all of our customer information get stolen, or did just this group get stolen? Can really help save you time, money, and maybe your whole company as well. So other companies might be able to give you some of the similar kind of information, but they're claiming they're the only ones that can give you both. So they also work with FireEye, which is another security solution. I went to their website and they have this cyber threat map, which is pretty cool. I just took a snapshot of it at 10 o'clock this morning. There's already 25,000 attacks. One thing that's cool is it's real time, and they show you, new attack from this country to this country, where it's going, where it's coming from. And also, this is only the attacks that they're catching. Obviously, there's way more attacks going on. This should just show you how we need to be aware and prevent kind of as many attacks as we can. So here's some report highlights. The report in itself from Mandiant is about 25 pages long. It's a PDF. It's free if you want to go out there and get it. I suggest and encourage you to do that. There's a lot more details in here. Here's just kind of the big things that stuck out to me. This one right here, the time from earliest evidence of compromise to the discovery of the compromise. So this is saying that the average amount of days the company has been compromised without knowing it is 205 days. That's way too long in my opinion, but positive note, it's 24 days less than 2013. So there's some improvement there, but a lot of information can be stolen in just one day. So imagine how bad 205 days could be. A lot of customer information, confidential information is going to be stolen. So just want to be aware of, as soon as they can find the compromise and remediate, the better. So longest presence, 2,982 days. Obviously a lot of information could have been stolen there. So that's just something that needs to be improved. So here's a case study kind of showing kind of that same kind of scenario here. Is one attacker breached a large U.S. retailer, compromising millions of credit cards over a 3-month period. So 90 days, millions of credit card information. So one thing he used was the PC exec command module. Writes the command to be executed to an output file, to a Windows batch file. Both the text file and the Windows batch are randomly generated 16-character file names. So he used this in step 1, and I'll go into the steps on kind of how he did this here. So the attacker remotely accessed the victim's environment through a virtualized application server. The attacker used valid credentials to authenticate. And in the report, they go into more detail. They said they were unsure of how he got these credentials. My guess would be social engineering, which is a huge thing today. Also, he could have used a password cracker. Any means he got credentials. So that was his initial access, and then from there he just moved laterally and then moved up and got all the information. So I'll just kind of go into more detail here. In step 2, he broke out of the virtualized application and began moving laterally into the corporate environment. From there, the attacker began harvesting credentials from systems in the environment. So once he got those credentials, he just moved up and he used the retail environment domain controller as a pivot point for the POS registers. From there, he deployed card harvesting malware that collected track data from the POS registers. So every time someone used their credit card for this company, this retailer, it would just all be sent to the domain controller. He would basically store all that information, and then step 4, as you can see, he used a file transfer protocol to send it to an FTP server he had externally. So basically all that information, he's just storing that all. I don't think that he did anything with it right away. He was just storing it all, and then eventually, once he has a big database of information built up, I mean, he can sell them, or steal their information, whatever he wants to do with it. It's all his to deal with. So obviously it wasn't too hard for him to get in and move over. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is what's happening in today's environment. Here's some steps that they suggest to kind of either slow down or even possibly stop this attack from happening. You want to secure remote access. So obviously, if someone's not physically at your location, you want to make sure that they actually are who they say they are. One way you can do this is two-factor authentication. So you want to make sure that you know who is authenticating. So, and also you want to monitor remote logins for any suspicious activity. You want to do this on a time-based. People should only be remoting in during work hours, or if they are, late at night, every night, you want to know why they need to do that. Also, secure access to PCI environment. Again, two-factor authentication to the access to jump server. A lot of stuff there can be fixed with two-factor. Deploy application whitelisting on critical assets, and then managed privilege accounts. So this one's huge. You don't want administrator or local admins if you don't need to have them. Basically, you want to give them the least amount of privilege that they need to do their job. So if they don't need admin rights, don't give them admin rights just so they don't run into issues. You should just try to give them least privilege, and that will help manage your privileged accounts. I'll explain a little bit on hijacking the VPN here. There's two main benefits to hijacking the VPN. So these advantages: first of all, they can persist in an environment without having to deploy backdoors. So easily not get detected by a backdoor being set up. And also, second, they can blend in by imitating authorized users. So they could appear to be an employee of the company when really they're not. So in a smaller number of cases, attackers used exploits to bypass VPN authentication altogether. One example was Heartbleed, vulnerability in the transport layer security. Heartbleed, the extension that made headlines in April. So everyone kind of heard about that. It was a big deal. And the worst case fears came true. Within weeks of Heartbleed disclosure, they've investigated a case which an attacker used the vulnerability against a VPN device to hijack authorized users, authenticated sessions to gain access. No credentials were required. So this access is easy for them, and they use that on other victims' VPN structures as well. So just kind of how they do that, skipping credentials and backdoors. So as the defenses evolve, attackers adapt and innovate. Here's kind of the new highlights that they see in attacks today. So hijacking the VPN, which we kind of went through. There's more cases in which attackers successfully gained access to the victims' VPNs than any prior year. So that's probably just going to increase. Plain text passwords. They used Mimikatz utility to steal plain text passwords from memory while evading AV detection. So malicious security packages. attackers took advantage of Windows security package extensibility to load backdoors, password loggers. One big thing they go into detail here that didn't have enough time to put into my presentation, I'll just touch on it a little bit here, but they have a lot more details on hiding web shells. So basically the shells planted on servers that used SSL encryption to evade network monitoring, and single line eval shells embedded in legitimate web pages, and then server configuration files that were modified to load malicious DLLs. So this is all like web-based malware, and there's a lot of stealthy techniques they're using to kind of maintain their presence. This is kind of why, you know, the 205 is an average amount of days until they're found, is because they're hiding and disguising themselves so well. So they're also leveraging WMI PowerShell. Both of those two are built-in components to Windows. They use that to maintain presence, gather data, and move laterally. Also, yeah, Kerberos attacks. After gaining domain administrator privileges, they use the Kerberos golden ticket attack to authenticate to any privileged account, even after the domain password resets. So once they have that, they're basically, it's hard to get rid of them. So in conclusion, attackers continue to evolve, their targets continue to expand, and their techniques continue to change. The central narrative stayed the same. Far too many organizations were unprepared for the inevitable breach, allowing attackers to linger far too long in a compromised environment. One quote from the report I really liked and I thought was really well said is, "The bad guys are smart, well-equipped, and determined. There's no reason that the good guys can't be the same." So basically they're using the same tools, they have the same, you know, same knowledge as us. They just are looking for a way to get in, and we need to be active in looking for, you know, the ways we can stop them and also what they're doing to get in. So that's kind of my presentation. Thank you for watching. Here's the link to the report if you want to look at it. I encourage you to do so. If you have any questions, please let me know, and thank you for watching.